Good morning, everyone. We're just going to give people 2 minutes just to join. Okay, that seems pretty good. So we're going to just start now. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second knowledge sharing session brought to you by the Next Gen board as a part of MAG Skills. So today's session is being led by Lizzie Conetta, the HR director of the Mark Allen Group, and is focused on skills relating to stress management and well-being. This session will include a 20 to 25-minute presentation from Lizzie, and then a brief Q&A afterwards. Can I ask that you save your questions during the delivery of the presentation and post them in the chat once Lizzie has finished speaking? Many thanks. So without further ado, I'd like to pass you over to Lizzie.
Thank you, Sean, and thanks for everybody that's joined today. So this is quite a big topic actually, so putting this presentation together, even though I've got 10 slides, this is never going to be enough. So out of this, we will be preparing more of a stress policy document to use in the workplace, and then loads of extra resources in terms of self-help and sort of cheat sheets to use as managers and staff if you are suffering from stress. So let's get on with it. So first of all, does this look familiar? There's quite a few of us that sit here with our head in our hands, or we might sit at home and just ponder and can't get the energy to do anything, can't think about doing anything. Stress is something that we all experience, whether it's at work or within our personal lives. And we're often really uncomfortable talking about it or even managing it ourselves. Certain types of stress, if not managed, can lead to bigger problems. The aim of this very short presentation is to raise your awareness of stress, not just for yourself, but for those around you, and to give you the tools to either signpost a friend, a family member, a colleague, or tools that will actually help you personally. So today's agenda, understanding stress. What is stress? What causes stress? The signs and the symptoms that you should look out for, not just in yourself, but the people around you. A little bit about work-related stress and how that kind of manifests. And then a little bit of insight into how you can manage that in the workplace and how you can take care of yourself in terms of stress. And then the resources that are available to you throughout sort of, MAG, what we have available for you, and other resources. And then the floor's open to you whether you've got any questions, and hopefully I can give you some answers. So understanding stress. What is stress? So this image catches what stress really is. It's not just about being busy or under pressure. It's actually about the balance. Stress happens when the demands we face start to outweigh the personal and social resources that we have available to cope with those. So that could be, something in the workplace, you're given this extra task, and that could, tip the scales, or you could have something going on in your personal life, again, which kind of unsettles you slightly and gives you a little bit of stress. When the scales tip too far, that's when stress builds. And the goal isn't to remove all of the demands, because obviously that would make life impossible, but it's to strengthen our resources and adjust what we can to restore that balance. So that's what we'll be looking at. So the symptoms. So symptoms of stress manifest in various ways. We can talk about stress. It's not just a feeling in our minds. Stress can present itself in many ways, both physical and behavioural. The signs can look different depending on the person and the type of stress they experience. I personally work well under a little bit of stress because it means that I've got to focus and I've got to, put my mind kind of, you know, in the zone where I need to be. So a little bit of stress, you know, and a little bit of pressure is really good. However, when those signs beget too much, that's when we need to sort of address it. Physical signs might include things like frequent headaches, stomach issues, poor sleep, constant tiredness, whereas behavioural signs can show up as withdrawing from others, being a little bit more irritable or impatient or struggling to focus. That's the one that I have. So, for example, someone under acute stress meeting a tight deadline might feel restless or get some headaches, while someone dealing with chronic stress, such as ongoing personal strains or problems, might notice fatigue, sleep problems, or even changes in their weight. The key point in all of this is if stress affects any of us, but spotlighting the signs gives us the early chance to do something about it. So if any of, you know, we feel these on a day-to-day, and I'm not saying that, you know, by feeling one of these or two of these, you know, you're stressed. As I said before, some stress is quite good for you. But when these things become constant and they're happening all the time, that's when you need to sort of take a look at yourself, stand back and think, am I stressed? So in the workplace, stress, I've looked at this a number of ways, and it can come from, you know, if I look at point one, sleeping poorly or inadequately, that could come from a personal issue that stops you from getting a good night's sleep. And we all know sleep deprivation is not a good thing. But then how that manifests into the workplace is, you know, you're already feeling a little bit sort of stressed because you haven't had enough sleep. And then you come into work and you've got extra tasks, you know, your workload's already full. So then that manifests going around that circle into the various stages. And that's what we're going to look at is that, you know, do you feel panicked that you haven't got enough time? Are you feeling helpless or overwhelmed? And these things, look at this circle as if it's in your personal life, it kind of manifests in the same way, and also in the work life, sort of in your work life and the things that you do. So you know, we can come in at two angles, either point number one, where it's actually relating at home and then it impacts on your work, or actually it starts at work. There's two ways to look at it. So how do we actually manage those sort of stress? And there's many ways that we can do it. And this is a very simple example, but again, something that you can reflect on personally or in the workplace. So I'll just kind of talk you through it slowly. Noticing the signs. Now, I'm going to come from 2 points of view. Noticing the signs in yourself and the action that you can take. So look at those signs. Look if your behaviour has changed, your moods are changing, your performance is changing. If you are a manager or you say in your personal life and you recognise that somebody is feeling those ways, we're looking from 2 points, me personally or people around me. Is a member of my staff, you know, is their behaviour changing? Are they a bit more moody? Has their performance dipped? So this stress sort of flow chart takes you through both personal and in the workplace. You know, think about a colleague that might be under pressure. Create the space to talk. This is really important. So if it's yourself going through stress, really, really think about talking to somebody, whether that's a friend, whether that's a work colleague, if it's in the workplace, or even your line manager. But create that space to speak to somebody about how you're feeling, as I say, whether it's personal or work. Ask yourself questions, or if you're in a manager view or you're in a friend view, is ask questions to understand what's driving that stress for yourself or the individual that you're concerned about. And it doesn't have to be, you know, a really sort of like, you know, what's going on? Very open, very gentle, very discreet, especially if you're not sure on how to handle it if it's a member of staff. Follow up. So if that person has sort of, so I'd say it agrees the practical. So if it's work, ask somebody about their workload. You know, have you got particular tasks that you're struggling with? Do you need more support? What we're trying to do by following this chart is recognizing that there are signs of stress, and I'm not talking about severe, I'm talking about subtle, and then addressing that, speaking to the person, speaking to yourself, not openly, but you know what I mean. Explore why you're feeling it, why the person's experiencing it, and then think about the work that they're doing. Think about if you're managing something at home personally, think about, can I make adjustments to that? Do I need to do it all myself? Can I control this? Can I have a little bit of extra training? Can I do a little bit if it's personal? Can I find external resources that are going to help me manage that? The whole point is to recognize the early signs and then start to break it down before it becomes a bigger issue. Support the recovery. So again, at work, if you're feeling a little bit stressed, there is this: take a break, take 5 minutes, go away, get a cup of coffee, go and have a water cooler moment, have a chat with someone. We're right by the park. Walk around the park, walk around the block. Just alleviate that stress from you. If you're at home, can you stop what you're doing and take a break? It's all about supporting your recovery and giving yourself time to take a break from what's causing that stress and then just come back and revisit it. And you might come back and revisit it and go through this flowchart and go back to question number 3, for example. Ask yourself some questions. Can I do anything about this? And then if it is in the workplace and you are a manager that is supporting somebody through stress, is make sure that you follow up regularly. Don't leave it to just assume that that person's okay. Just ask the question, are you okay? Are things okay? And sometimes don't just ask once, ask again. Sometimes people feel uncomfortable saying yes straight away. It can feel like a sign of weakness, which it's absolutely not. People have different ways of coping with stress. Some people can and some people can't. So it's really important that around us, we have people that recognize that. So there's a little flow chart that can work both in the workplace and at home, and just take you through some steps. Now, if we think about self-care during stress, this is what you can do for yourself. And again, there is some crossover in the workplace. So pause and notice. It goes back to recognizing that there's a bit of an issue, taking a bit of a step back, and maybe you can then think about how you can address that person, how you can talk to that person. But remember, please don't judge. There should be no judgment. We are all different. We all deal with stress in a different way, as I said, and the symptoms may manifest differently. So don't judge. And don't judge yourself. If you're feeling stressed, as I said, don't take this on as a sign of weakness. It just means that you're dealing with something that is out of your comfort zone. And we're here to support you through that. And I'm sure that you've got people, if you're dealing with something like that in your personal life, there are many, many sources of it. And since COVID, there is more and more resource out there for people suffering with stress, anxiety, etc. So breathe and ground yourself. That is, take 2 minutes, take 5 minutes, move away from the computer. If you're at home, go and sit in the garden, take yourself out, just take you away from what is actually causing that stress. Set yourself some small boundaries. Sometimes I'll look at a big task and just think, oh my God, I just don't know how I'm going to do this. Break it down into small chunks. Look at how that you can then make it manageable. Breaking it down into small tasks might actually help you think, well, actually, I can delegate that task to somebody else. You don't have to do it all yourself. Again, if it's a personal issue, is it all on you? Can you call on a friend, a family member? Can you call on the professional services that are available to help you? You're not in it alone. So the move and the rest, we all know that sort of, physical activities are really good for you. I myself, apart from swimming, I'm not a physical person. But what I do is I like mind games. I'll pick up my phone and I'll play a game that takes my mind somewhere else away from what's causing me stress. So ensure that you have a little bit of balance and you take those breaks where they're necessary. Connect with others. It's really important. You don't have to suffer stress alone. As I said, stress can have varying forms and varying degrees. So if you're able to speak to others in your close circle, then please do. But if it means a trip to the doctors or a counsellor, then it's really important that you take that initiative to do it. It is not a sign of weakness at all. And don't forget to refill your energies. Do things that you enjoy doing that restore your energy levels. As I say, mine is a game on my phone. But whatever it is that kind of brings you back out of that stressed anxiety state, then just do it. Even if it's for 5 minutes, give yourself a break. Give yourself a timeout. Now, at MAG, you may not know this, but actually we do have quite a few services that are available to you. So we have the EAP service. And that comes in the form, so that's through our Medicash portal. But what you have at hand is there's GPs online, which you can book through Medicash. We also have a 24/7 confidential helpline. That helpline is for various things. It can be workplace where you might need a bit of hand. I don't know, maybe you need gearing up speaking to your manager about a particular subject. Maybe you just want a little bit of advice. It goes through personal. So if you are suffering with, I don't know, stress, anxiety, etc., there are professionals at hand to speak to you 24/7 and to get you out of the moment, critical thinking. So if you're in a deep, dark place, you don't know what to do, you don't know who to speak to, you can call the EAP service. It's 24/7 and it's absolutely confidential. We don't get to know who's used it. We just get stats. 30 people have called, and that's it. We just need to know that people are using that service. On the Medicash app that you can download on the phone is the actual portal. On there are loads of self-help guides. There's meditation, there's breathing exercises, there's yoga routines. It's all on the Medicash app. So again, if the physical to get out of the moment is your thing, jump on the app and see what's available for you. We also have the Go One learning platform. If you go onto that, which has actually just been revised, and it's got a great AI tool, actually helped me put this presentation together today. There are loads and loads of courses on stress, managing stress, self-wellbeing, etc. And it's got a great AI tool. So you can just literally, as we all know, there's 60-odd thousand courses on there, but it now has the ability, it pulls up quite a few. If you put in stress management, it will give you a whole list. You can just tick off the subject matter that you're particularly interested in. You can say, just give me the top courses. You can say you only want a 15-minute session, and it will really shrink that content down and give you what you want. As I say, doing this presentation, I found there's some really great stuff, and I'm more than happy to put that in a playlist so that we can share it with everybody and you can go through it at your own time. So Go One Learning has got some great stuff on there. We've also got our mental health first aiders. There are posters around the building, and these first aiders have been through professional training. And if you speak to them, again, it's absolutely confidential. They're not here to fix you, but they're here to signpost you to more help. So again, our mental health aiders have done this because they do want to support people in the business. So again, don't feel that you can't go to them. There's always us in the HR team. You can speak to any member of us, and if you come to us confidentially, it will remain confidential, but we're here to support you. We can give you just guidance maybe on how you start that conversation, you know, whether it's with your manager, whether it's with a colleague, or whether it's, you know, approaching your GP. We're more than happy to help. The other thing that I'm really, really pleased to announce is that we are just about to launch our NeuroBridge platform. So for all of our neurodivergent employees who may suffer some more stress and anxiety more over than others, this platform, we hope, is really going to support you in the workplace. We're doing a manager session on Friday to raise awareness and to launch the platform and how managers can use it to assist their staff. But next week, we'll launch it to the entire company. This platform will allow you to go on there and create an anonymous profile and access all of the content on there in regards to, if you are neurodivergent, your neurodiversity aspect. If you're a manager and you think that you've got someone in your team or someone's opened up, the platform will give you help and give you guidance on how best to support that person with their particular neurodivergent need. It's a great initiative, and I would embrace everybody to go on it. Even if you've got somebody personally in your family, you can set up their profile, and again, it will give unlimited access to resources to help with their particular neurodiverse aspect. So, you know, us as a company are here to support you. We have the 6 available options, but as I said, from putting this presentation together, I appreciate stress is a really big topic. And if we need a further course, then I'm more than happy to put that on to deep dive further. Or, as I said, we will prepare lots and lots of takeaways and resources that you can access via the People First portal to ensure that you feel fully supported in the workplace in terms of stress and anxiety, and not just because of work, but because of things that might be happening to you personally that then might impact how you do your job. We're here to support you, but we want to make sure that you know where to go, And you know that everybody here, we're trying to raise awareness, is that we want everybody to support our colleagues. So if you see somebody suffering or you think they might be under a little bit of stress, just start that conversation. You never know where it might take you. So on to questions. As I say, this is a very whistle-stop tour. It is a massive subject, and some of these, you know, even some of the symptoms themselves, we could do a whole session on. But it's just to raise awareness, just to let you know that we're here to support you, to let you know that we do have resources, and we're more than happy to find more to support you. But stress is stress. We all suffer from it, good or bad. But any questions, anybody? And I think I'll share my script. I'll stop sharing now.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Lizzie. As you were saying, we're going to open the floor to some questions. So if you have something you'd like to ask, please post it in the Teams chat. Thank you.
Hopefully there'll be none. Good thing is I can't see, so I'm going to be sitting here waiting for the first question. Which it looks like nobody wants to ask, Sean.
I'll ask one just to get the ball rolling.
Go on
So
then.
in terms of addressing stress in the workplace, are there any kind of tips you'd give for approaching, say, difficult deadlines or workplace pressures that are ultimately your responsibility? So if I'm looking at something, I've got like 6 tasks I have to complete, and they're very specific to my role, and I can't kind of delegate them to someone different. Are there any sort of skills you'd recommend me kind of looking at in terms of whether it's scheduling my time or it's speaking to other people in the team or that kind of thing?
I think there's a combination. I think, you know, there's no prescriptive way, you know, because we're dealing with humans and we're dealing with time in essence. So I think, you know, depending on where you're at in your job, for example, is that, you know, I would always recommend the first port of call is speak to your manager and have a very open conversation. And, you know, again, it's not a sign of failure. It's, you know, but what I would say is first, if you can, you know, think about it, look at those tasks and try to prioritize them themselves. And whether it's you prioritize by what's the quickest thing to do so you get it off the table, or whether you're the sort of person that does the biggest thing first. But if again you're struggling with that, is try to do it yourself first in terms of just marking those things out. Right, I've got 6 things, I think it should be done in this order. And if you're really not sure because you want to hit that deadline, have the conversation with your manager. Just go to your manager and say, look, I've got these six tasks to do, I've prioritized them, I think this is the way that I need to do it, am I right in my thinking? And then your manager hopefully will say, absolutely, Sean, you've cracked it, you're right, you know, you've got the right approach. Or they might say, actually, Sean, you know what, I can take this off you, or actually I can see that there's some really big things you've got to achieve there, so I'm going to ask somebody in the team to take that one on. Or, you know, but I just think a conversation is the best way to, but I always think if you go to your manager with a solution, you're halfway there, and then your manager is going to talk through maybe your rationale on how you got there. And that in itself might help you the next time you know, you've got 8 tasks and you think, well, actually, the last time I did this, I actually did think about it right, but my manager suggested this. I'm going to apply that to this approach on this time. So I think it's a constant learning, but it's difficult because we're humans, and how you react to stress and pressure is different from me. You might like to do the big task first, whereas I might like to say, right, I know they're only going to take me 15 minutes. I'm going to get those off. But I do think it's those scales. It goes back to that visual of making sure the scales are balanced for you. And if they are unbalanced in a different way, then talk to your manager. If you don't feel that you can talk to your manager, maybe there's another colleague that you're quite close to on the team that you can just thrash it out with and say, oh, I'm really struggling with this. What would you do? And just get their opinion. Hopefully that's helped. Very generic, but as I say, it's very difficult because there's no prescriptive way, because, you know, how you react is very different from mine. But it's finding what's good for you. And, you know, if you've worked with that manager for a short time or a long time, is actually together, you know what your stresses are, what causes you stress, and you know what your coping mechanisms. So together, it makes it a lot easier. Don't suffer in silence. That's the one big thing I'd say is don't sit in silence when you're stressed, because it just manifests in your mind and can snowball.
Fantastic, thank you. So it doesn't look like we've got any other questions to ask. I'll give it
just nailed
30
it.
more
That's
seconds
because I learned from,
just to see.
from Matt last week on how to do a presentation, hopefully. There you go.
Well, on the subject of... Oh, 1 second.
There is some in the Q&A.
I've been told there are some questions in the Q&A
there
section.
is me thinking
Lovely.
I got away lightly. Oh my goodness.
So just going to Jack Trout, can you describe a time that you felt overwhelmed at work and how did you handle it?
Oh gosh, well, and I'm going to be very honest, HR can be a very stressful place, because, I come in every day and I sit here and say, right, I've got 5 things to do on my to-do list today, but our work involves supporting the business and our employees. And 1 out of all 500 of you could come in here today with an issue and it totally change what I've got to do. So, often, I mean, I have, dealt with something here that has, I don't want to, obviously, it's very difficult because we deal with a lot of confidential stuff, but I have dealt with something that was very important to the business, and that itself was 2 years in the making, and it was very, very stressful when it came to the point of, I had to represent the company. Very, very stressful, but, in my mind, I can only do as good as I can. I can give my best, and as long as I feel that I'm giving my best, then that is as much as I can do. I am the sort of person that will push myself to a deadline. Sometimes I overcommit, but that's my fault, and then I put extra pressure on myself. So, one of the things that I've learned, especially while handling this big thing that I was dealing with and still had to deal with a lot of things, is don't overcommit. One thing that I was taught in a time management course is when somebody asks you to do something, or have you got 5 minutes, it's when. Because I haven't got 5 minutes now, but I can schedule in. Or if somebody asks you to do something, is when do you want it back by? So if they say, right, I want it back in 10 minutes, well, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm not going to put myself under unnecessary stress. But what I will do is say to that person, when do you want it by? Can I give it to you by Wednesday? And then it kind of relieves some of the stress that, that person's putting on me and I'm putting on myself. So I think there are little things that we can do in ourselves. Is just check, have I got 5 minutes that I can really give up now to have a conversation? Is it really going to be a 5-minute conversation, or is it going to stretch to half an hour? So if you're given expectations, make sure that you can deliver them. So question those expectations. And again, you can do that personally. I'm just trying to think of a personal scenario. Personal scenarios, I've got to take my mum shopping every Saturday. That's really stressful for me because I've got to get up early on a Saturday and get to my mum's. But what I do is when I drop her off on a Saturday is, do you want me next Saturday, mum? And then she knows, I know a week in advance, I've either got to go back to my mum's on a Saturday, or actually, yay, I've got a Saturday free. That relieves a lot of stress for me, because it helps me plan my week knowing that I've got a Saturday free, or no, I haven't got a Saturday free. It sounds really silly and something that's really petty, but for me, it's really big because I get 1 day a weekend rather than 2 days on my weekend. So it's just little things that I know make me feel a little bit better and less stressful.
That's great. And we've got one other question from Natasha. Do you have any small daily habit ideas that can make a big difference over time to help manage feelings of stress?
I think do yourself a realistic to-do list. Don't make it more than 5 or 6 things. I just think sometimes, we're very good at writing lists. They go into diet and they just become a very long list, and all we keep doing is adding to the bottom of them. And I just think, before you leave, work, again, I was taught this on a time management course. If you finish at 5:30, maybe stop, if you can, at 5:15 and think, right, what do I need to achieve tomorrow? And just think about tomorrow. Don't think about the rest of the week. Don't think about, so we're on Wednesday. Don't think about Thursday, Friday. What do I need to achieve tomorrow? Give yourselves smaller things to achieve. Well, not smaller things, because there might be big things, but don't give yourself a great big shopping list to do, and break that down into sections. What I've started to do is try to say, right, that's going to take me an hour to do. I'm just going to show you this. I've got a little timer. I haven't used it yet, but my plan is, right, I'll give myself an hour. I'm going to set my timer. It's an hour. And then if I need more time, I'll reassess. Don't book back-to-back meetings. Allow yourself at least 20 minutes between meetings so that you can either do something that's come out of the last meeting, or at least give yourself a little bit of prep for the next meeting. So if you're doing something, don't book a meeting straight in afterwards. You need a bit of downtime to either, the thing that we started to do is when we've had conversations with people, so that we don't lose that, it's a 5-minute, let's just write it out of our notes so that we know we've had that conversation, etc. So do the little things that will help later down the line. Don't get stressed, I can't find my notes in my notebook, etc., etc. Just write them up, or, I'm loving it. I found that if you speak to your computer in Word, you can open up the microphone and it'll type it all for you. So just little things like that to just ease a little bit of the pressure and make your workload day to day manageable. Just 6 things rather than 20 things on your to-do list, and revisit that at the end of the day for the next day, so you know what you're coming into tomorrow.
Fantastic. So that's the end of the official sort of question section. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. I'd like to thank Lizzie for the presentation. Our next session will be held 2 weeks today on the 28th, and we'll be with Rob Yates looking at effective communication. So yeah, thank you all for attending, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Sean.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.